The measles outbreak happening in Texas and other states has so far killed about 3 people and infected over 500 in West Texas alone. Now, a Republican, though, is blaming this on immigrants because, of course, he is. Republican Representative Ryan McKenzie recently said that immigrants are bringing diseases into our country. It's bringing diseases. Really? I'm pretty sure it's actually the people who choose not to vaccinate that are the cause of this. And while it is true that some migrants who request asylum come from places where vaccination may be out of reach, I think the way to protect ourselves is to ensure that as many of our citizens are vaccinated as we can. And that is currently not happening. Of those 3 deaths in Texas, all of them were unvaccinated. That said, on Thursday night, CNN held a town hall with 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. One of them happens to be Ryan McKenzie, who said this.
So as a father of a 1-year-old who is going through his vaccine regimen right now, that's something that I'm choosing for my son. That we are getting him vaccinated just like I was vaccinated. In the case of the measles vaccine, that's something that's been long established. And I think we have a fairly good track record of evidence to prove that that is safe and effective. So I would encourage others, if that is their choice, to actually go out and do that. But we do have a couple other things that we need to address. First of all, many of these instances that are coming into our country are from illegal immigrants who have crossed the border with no checks, no actual health records, and they are bringing these diseases into our country. There is a reason why measles has started to spread in our country after decades of being almost eradicated, as you pointed out. And so I think we need to recognize that point.
There is a reason. That reason is anti-vaxxers. Okay, only 93% of U.S. kindergartners had received their MMR vaccines last year, which unfortunately falls short of the threshold of preventing transmission of the virus. I mean, MMR, measles is very, very, very contagious. Very contagious. And by the way, we know about this. In fact, on January 25th, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention had alerted clinicians to be on the lookout for measles after 23 cases were counted across the nation. Now, that did include 7 tied to international travel. No, that does not necessarily mean, it's the undocumented immigrants. No, international travel. You also had 2 separate outbreaks made up of more than 5 patients. Most cases were identified in children and adolescents who had not been vaccinated against measles. Why? Why were they not getting measles vaccines? Well, experts point at the debunked Wakefield study. Back in 1998, Andrew Wakefield had claimed a direct connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. Now, that study, of course, was debunked. It was based on misleading research, unethical practices, and led to Wakefield ultimately losing his medical license, but the damage was already done. Okay, people continue to cite that paper as a justification for not getting their kids vaccinated. Okay, since then, people in the United States and in Europe have been choosing not to vaccinate people, which is causing these diseases that were once eradicated to make a unfortunate roaring comeback. I'm going to show you here a chart from 2022 to 2023. States with the highest and lowest measles vaccination rates. And you see, shockingly, Mississippi, really high. New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine, all above the threshold. But then you have Colorado, Wisconsin, Hawaii, Alaska, and Idaho way, way down. Completely under that threshold, and that is disastrous. But what about Texas? This is where, yes, it's in some of these other states, but talking about Texas, right? Well, what's Texas's vaccination rate? 94.3%. That is below the threshold. You need at least 95. Okay. Now this chart, next one that I'm going to show you here, even more disastrous. Here is the state MMR vaccine rates among kindergartners in Texas, as well as the median, which is, once again, below that threshold. not good. So no, this is not a result of immigrants coming over and spreading the diseases. No, it's Americans choosing not to vaccinate their kids. That's it. Now, the reason, of course, one of the reasons to push back on this so much is because the language that McKenzie is using is deeply dehumanizing. And it's one of those things that really, like, it's like a Pavlovian reaction here in conservatives. He is basically calling them diseased, dirty, and dangerous. Okay, that plays really, really well with the far right. But of course, it's not true. Okay, along with the dehumanizing language, there's just no factual reality in this because border crossings are way down. Border Patrol noted that in February of 2025, they apprehended 8,347 undocumented immigrants crossing the southern border between the ports of entry. That is a 71% decrease from January 2025, when Border Patrol apprehended 29,101 migrants. That's also a 94% decrease from February of 2024, when Border Patrol apprehended 140,641 migrants. So what you're seeing here is you've got record low illegal immigration. So you really can't blame the measles outbreak on that. You can't pin this whole thing on migrants. Y'all built this one with your decades of anti-vax rhetoric, as well as your make America healthy again. You know, here's the thing. If you actually did want to ensure that people coming into this country are healthy, USAID. They had these programs that would make sure that people in developing countries, low-income countries, were able to get vaccines. Yes. Not only that, but also to allow, or I should say to stop allowing anti-vax groups to go over and convince other countries, people in other countries, to not vaccinate. This is exactly what RFK Jr. did in Samoa that ended up with deaths from these diseases. But of course, they're not going to do that. They're never going to do that. Because as you can see, these Republicans will never take responsibility for the damage that they cause, even when that damage ends up at their front door. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.